I love to fly. Much of my free time is spent flying airplanes and helicopters.
You're doing a lot of flying around.
Look, it's, that's the easy part.
We heard it sputtering, it went off, then started again, then went off, and then it just completely went off, and then we're like, oh my goodness, it's.
I-3178, engine failure, immediate return.
Everyone thinks they know Harrison Ford. They know the adventurous Nazi-fighting archaeologist. They know the space-smuggling captain of the Millennium Falcon. And they know the Blade Runner from a dystopian future. But nobody really knows the man behind the movies once the cameras have stopped rolling. Nobody knows the real Harrison Ford.
What did you get from making this film that, you haven't had from him?
Money. What do you mean? What do you mean, what did I get? I got exercise. I got the opportunity to work with people that I admire.
As a conservationist fighting to save the planet, a trained pilot with multiple near-death experiences, and a father to 5, Harrison Ford's life off-screen has been just as much of an adventure as on-screen. The notoriously private man with a genuinely extraordinary life has managed to carve his own unique path to global stardom, all the while with a few bumps along the way.
The only advice I've ever thought that was be of any use to anybody is to be yourself. Don't try and imitate anyone else's success.
Harrison Ford was born on July 13, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. He was the oldest of 2 boys, to Dorothy and John William Ford. His younger brother, Terrence, was born in 1945. Like his life in film, the young Harrison Ford was not one to shy away from adventure. He spent much of his childhood working his way through the Boy Scout system and achieved the 2nd highest rank of Life Scout. As a teenager, Ford swapped his Boy Scout neckerchief for the DJ booth and microphone when he decided he wanted to follow in his mother's footsteps and embark on a career in radio broadcasting. After taking on the role of senior sportscaster, he became the first student voice broadcast on his high school radio station. He graduated high school in 1960 and went on to study at college, attending Ripon College, Wisconsin, where he studied English and philosophy. In an attempt to get an easy grade and try to overcome his adolescent shyness, Ford signed up for a drama course at college. Unbeknownst to him, this decision would be the starting point of one of Hollywood's most famous acting careers. While studying at college, he met Mary Marquardt, the woman he married soon after graduating. After tying the knot, the new couple traveled to Los Angeles together. Ford, determined to pursue a career in radio, applied for voiceover jobs on local radio stations. Initially, the move to Los Angeles didn't go to plan. Ford didn't get the broadcasting job, and work was hard to come by. But with a child on the way, he was determined to do what he could to support his growing family. He eventually signed a contract with Columbia Pictures' New Talent program, where he earned $150 a week to play bit roles in films.
Gave me the opportunity to work. The films that I worked in were not necessarily the best quality, but they were immediate opportunities to go out and work, which is what I was looking for. There were films like Force 10 from Navarone, Hanover Street, but they were starring roles.
Ford's first known role was an uncredited appearance as a bellboy in the 1966 movie Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round.
Paging Mr. Ellis. Paging Mr. Ellis. Paging Mr. Ellis.
Boy?
Unfortunately, studio executives were less than impressed with his performance. In the small bubble of Hollywood, his apparent lackluster performance would subsequently put Ford at the bottom of casting lists. By the end of the 1960s, Harrison Ford was becoming more frustrated with the roles being offered to him. Bit roles and non-speaking parts weren't enough to supplement his acting desires and his family's needs.
No, I just wanted to make a living as an actor, and I had no ambitious to be rich and famous. I wasn't ambitious to be rich and famous. I just wanted to make a living as an actor.
Unhappy with where his acting career was heading, Ford became a self-taught carpenter to support his then wife and 2 young sons. Using books and learning on the job, he continued to live in California, using his carpentry skills to make ends meet. Carpentry also became an opportunity to get through the door of several famous film directors and producers who required Ford's newfound skill set. After the success of Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather, he hired Ford and his carpentry skills to help expand his office. In fact, this relationship led to Ford landing minor roles in Coppola's following 2 films. His working relationship with Coppola landed Ford an introduction to George Lucas, who became a new client of Ford's carpentry services. After being impressed by his carpentry skills and acting ability, George Lucas hired Ford for a small part in his 1973 film American Graffiti, in what would be their first of many successful collaborations.
Hey, that's a tough-looking girl you got with you, man. What are you doing, trying to pick up a few extra bucks babysit? Hey, dog, why don't you come on a ride with me in about 10 years? Now leave her out of this. This is just between you and me.
As arrogant cowboy drag racer Bob Falfa, Ford cruised the streets of Modesto. His charisma and wit, which Ford would go on to be well known for, were on full display. There would, however, be another 4 years until George Lucas and Harrison Ford worked together again. For Harrison Ford, the 4 years running up to the release of Star Wars replicated the previous. Minor roles and bit parts made up most of the jobbing actor's workload. He never gave up and continued working hard, both as an actor and a carpenter, to make ends meet. However, 1977 proved to be a turning point in his acting career. At 34, the self-professed late bloomer would finally get the role he had always dreamt of. Star Wars: A New Hope, George Lucas's first global sensation, turned Harrison Ford's life around. Alongside co-stars Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, Ford was thrust into the limelight, one route to becoming a Hollywood icon.
Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here tells me you're looking for passage to the Alderaan system.
As Han Solo, Ford utilized the charm, wit, and natural charisma he would become so well known for to help create one of the most recognized characters of the 20th century.
I never liked Han Solo very much at all. I couldn't really understand why anybody else did. Certainly the job is more complex, and you want to make sure that you have all the pieces. Han Solo is made of far fewer pieces. It's almost something you can fit together in the dark.
Star Wars was undoubtedly a phenomenon. The movie captured the imagination of millions worldwide, and at the time becoming the highest-grossing film ever made. Although it wasn't for everyone.
Oh, stupid! You'd want to be an 8-year-old to enjoy it. The only bit of it, I mean, it was so long drawn out.
Over the next 10 years, Ford would reprise his role as Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back in 1983.
I love you.
I know.
And Return of the Jedi in 1986. The popularity of Star Wars, coupled with his strong relationship with George Lucas, allowed Harrison Ford to step into another successful franchise, this time in the lead role. Written by George Lucas and directed by Steven Spielberg, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first of 5 Indiana Jones movies, saw Ford play Dr. Henry Jones, Jr., a professor of archaeology who goes on dangerous adventures to recover important artifacts under the pseudonym Indiana Jones. Playing Indiana Jones as an imperfect protagonist, both a romantic and a cynic, was the perfect role for Ford to further cement himself as the everyman hero that everyone could relate to. Raiders of the Lost Ark became the highest-grossing film of 1981 and cemented Ford's stardom in another globally loved franchise. The film's success allowed the studio to greenlight 2 more Indiana Jones adventures to release across the next decade. And whilst Ford loved making them, there were a few hiccups along the way.
But they're pretty arduous films to make, and we tried to do whatever we could so that I could do most of the physical activity, because I was always convinced that you don't want to be looking at the back of a character's face when they're in these kinds of exciting circumstances. You want to see in their eyes, so we figured out how I could do most of it.
In 1982, following the success of the first Indiana Jones movie, Ford appeared in the dystopian cult classic thriller, Blade Runner. Directed by Ridley Scott, Blade Runner told the story of Rick Deckard, played by Ford, a man tasked with destroying humanoid robots who had traveled back to Earth to kill their creator.
Harrison, first of all, being already on the threshold of huge Hollywood stardom, because of Star Wars and then Indiana Jones, and I was smart about it. The reason I cast Harrison was because I knew that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were making a film called Indiana Jones. I thought, whoever they've chosen is going to be a big bloody star. So that's how I cast him. Not on talent, just on that bit.
The movie we made together, Blade Runner, was one of the most difficult films I've ever made. I think, to that point, probably one of the most difficult films that Ridley had made.
He felt neglected through the movie. He felt that he wasn't being paid enough, given enough coaching, if you like. And he wouldn't talk about the movie for about 20 years. Only recently he's been come back to liking it, or talking about it anyway. He didn't feel he was given enough attention.
But it was one where I learned as much as I've ever learned, where I was challenged as much as I have ever been, and where I had formed a respect for the people that I worked with that has been instructive to me in my life, and I do appreciate that, really.
Well, I don't get it. What do they risk coming back to Earth for? That's unusual. Why? What do they want out of the Tyrell Corporation?
You tell me, pal. That's what you're here for.
Or they write them down for you. interesting thing about the original Blade Runner is it became a cult hit, but really it didn't come out and everybody thought instant classic.
No, they certainly didn't. They thought instant everything else. It was never really quite right. The people who financed it were pressing to have it released at the most stupid moment. It should have gone out in December, the way Deer Hunter did, and that's the way it got into line to get Oscars and things. And they put it out in June, curiously enough, against another tiny little science fiction movie called E.T. Smart move, huh? I mean, anybody would go and see E.T. on a date rather than a dysfunctional picture like Blade Runner.
Whilst at the time Blade Runner was commercially disappointing, it would go on to become a cult classic. Even 30 years later, the film returned to cinemas as a special presentation, highlighting how popular it had become over time.
I am presenting Blade Runner, a 31-year-old movie that I haven't seen for 30 years.
Does it bring back any memories as you're thinking about it? Are you going to have memories when you see it in there?
I'm sure it'll bring back a lot of memories.
Anything that you think why this kind of stood the test of time, why this is such a classic to me?
Well, it's it's 31 years old, and it's found an audience. It wasn't that successful when it opened, but over a period of time, it found an audience and a loyal following. It's become an important historical movie.
Do you think it'll be emotional watching it again? Or?
No.
Ford met his second wife, Melissa Matheson, on the set of Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now in 1976.
When you find the colonel, infiltrate his team by whatever means available and terminate the colonel's command.
7 years later, they were married, becoming parents to son Malcolm in 1987 and daughter Georgia in 1990. In 1986, Ford was nominated for an Academy Award for his role as Sergeant John Book in Witness.
It's over! Enough! Enough!
His role as an undercover police officer trying to solve a murder in an Amish community proved to be his most critically acclaimed. And whilst he ultimately lost out to William Hurt that year, the nomination further proved Ford's star power as a leading man outside of franchise entertainment. Even after turning 50, Harrison Ford's career as an action hero didn't slow down. The 90s saw Ford challenging himself with even more ambitious and diverse roles within new and unexpected movie genres. In 1992 and 1994, Ford took on the role of Jack Ryan, the spy created by Tom Clancy. As with every character Ford portrayed, he made Jack Ryan his own.
Look, it's a very interesting character. I think he finds himself in situations where I think that Jack Ryan can take people into a place where they feel they have the privilege of being. I mean, that's part of the attraction of Tom Clancy's books, that he seems to have a special knowledge of this secret stuff. So I think it's one of the attractions of the Jack Ryan character.
After taking over the role from Alec Baldwin, Ford wanted to rebuild the character, focusing on the nuances he saw in the screenplay rather than what had come before.
But I think I concentrate on story, the detail of story. I want to prove the story to myself and to the people that I'm working with, to just make sure that each moment on screen has a clear purpose and that we're all united in recognizing what that purpose is.
In 1993, he starred in The Fugitive as a widowed husband convicted of his wife's murder. In this role, Ford was described as the modern movie everyman, dogged, determined, and brave.
How dare you? When I came home, there was a man in my house. I fought with this man. He had a mechanical arm.
In 1997, Ford was cast as President James Marshall, opposite Gary Oldman in the political action thriller Air Force One. The film was a box office success and further emphasized the popularity of Ford as a leading man, as it became the 5th highest grossing movie of 1997. In 1998, Harrison Ford was awarded People magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. He is the second oldest man to win the award, only surpassed by his Indiana Jones co-star Sean Connery, who was 58 when awarded the prestigious title. In the same year, GQ honored him alongside George Clooney and Chris Rock as one of 3 Men of the Year. Eager to diversify his acting credits, Ford appeared in 6 Days, 7 Nights, an action-adventure comedy, alongside Anne Hesh and David Schwimmer.
Hi, you too. One of the things that Harrison has said is that you're really bubbly and zingy and you get on with your work and you're really happy about it. What did you think of him?
Oh, he was having a great time. I mean, well, I hope he was, unless he was acting off camera as well as on. But he, I think, was exploring something that was so new for him, which is why it was so cool for me to be playing opposite him when he wanted to do a comedy. So I got to see, you know, the brightest side of him. So he was just fantastic.
Well, it's one of the genres that mustn't be ignored, you know, to appeal to the broad spectrum of audiences. You want to do all kinds of films, and comedy is certainly one of the things I always look for when I'm reading scripts. But a lot of comedy is, first of all, I don't find it very funny. This one I found funny.
It's always a winner then if you find it funny.
Despite mixed reviews, Ford's performance was positively reviewed as having an easy appeal.
I am the best goddamn pilot you're ever gonna meet.
I've flown with you twice. You've crashed half the time.
Whether it was a political thriller, action-adventure, or comedy, his ever-growing repertoire was a testament to his dedication to the craft and his genuine love of American cinema and storytelling.
But there, I really feel that there's a diversity of product in American film now, perhaps because of the independent influence. But you see a director who's lauded for his independent films make a studio film as soon as their independent film is successful. And I don't think it's a diminution of their ambition or their quality when they do that.
In 1999, Harrison Ford won Favorite All-Time Movie Star at the People's Choice Awards.
Been extraordinarily lucky, and I've worked with some of the most talented people in this business.
The award highlighted a wonderful decade in film, especially for an actor who was nearing 60.
Without being rude, as you get older, the bruises kind of stay a bit longer and the aches stay a bit longer. Do you find that that's happening to you?
Not yet, thank you.
Harrison Ford's roles in the 1990s proved that he could hold his own in movies across genres, away from franchise entertainment.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No stranger to flying planes and spacecrafts in his movies across the decades, Harrison Ford trained to be a pilot in the 1990s. Soon enough, flying aircraft became one of Ford's favorite hobbies.
I love to fly, so much of my free time is spent flying airplanes and helicopters.
Although it wasn't for the faint-hearted, as the actor soon found out. While training in a helicopter in 1999, he experienced his first accident when the helicopter he was flying lost power. Ford had to utilize his training and make an emergency landing. Thanks to his quick thinking and skillful piloting, Ford and his instructor luckily walked away from the accident unharmed. For Ford, however, this wouldn't be the last time his love of aircraft would turn into a near-death experience. Ford's dedication to cinema was further recognized in 2000 when he received the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award.
Well, AFI is an important organization in the movie business, and all of the things that they do, and they do a lot of things, are very important to the industry, and I'm glad to be able to support them.
This is the 28th Life Achievement Award. The first award went to a gentleman by the name of John Ford. The first honoree in our new century is Harrison Ford. So we checked the lineage. And we found out that there's no nepotism whatsoever involved with this award tonight.
You know, he's got an amazing quality that spans the generations. So not only does my daughter love him, does my mother love him, do I love him, does my grandmother love him? We all are crazy. We all have favorite movies. Oh, Witness. Oh my God, Star Wars. Oh, Indiana Jones. So whatever he's got, they should bottle it and sell it. Because wouldn't y'all just buy some? I don't know.
Sidney Pollack described Harrison Ford as everyman. Seems a bit insubstantial, don't you think? But being the sort of modest fellow that he is, and very nervous at the moment, and being saluted in quite this way with this many superlatives, he probably described himself as just a hard-working actor. Well, you and I all know that sometimes, for reasons both tangible and intangible, an actor is transformed into something rather remarkable. No one's quite sure why it happens, but it does. It's hard work, but it's charisma, it's personality, it's style, it's persona, it's everything. And I think that is why Harrison Ford is a star, both here and internationally. He's a global star, and this explains that this turnout tonight is the biggest the AFI has ever had, and we're honored to have it.
He always has a wonderful idea of exactly what the scene's about. And he has great ideas constantly, so he really works as a collaborator, I think, though he will deny it, that he doesn't have anything to do with it, but he really does collaborate heavily, with the rewrites, with the direction, with everything. He knows his medium.
Very pleased to be helping honor Harrison. I think he's a truly great actor and has created completely memorable characters that I think will live on through the next millennium. Plus, he's actually an all-around great guy.
And gentlemen, one more.
He was again rewarded for his work at the 2002 Golden Globes, receiving the Cecil B. DeMille Award. Since 1952, this award has been given to someone with outstanding contributions to the world of entertainment.
It's gratifying that people appreciate and recognize what you do, and I'm grateful for that.
Cecil B. DeMille, the first recipient of the award, was described as a Hollywood pioneer, a title that can now be bestowed on Harrison Ford.
What amazes me is that I actually had the opportunity to do such a range of characters, to work in a range of films like that. I'm very grateful for that, and I put that down to the people that I've had the good fortune to work with. They've had the guts and the courage to cast me in things that I might have been ambitious for, that others might have thought were beyond my scope. The opportunity is to do different things in different kinds of films, reach different segments of the audience. I'm grateful for that opportunity. Choosing a favorite from amongst the projects that I've been lucky enough to work in is like trying to say which of your children is your favorite child. It doesn't work that way.
A year after the Golden Globes, Ford was nominated for a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. After being selected as one of the 20 stars awarded that year, he found his name literally cemented within Hollywood's infrastructure.
I mean, I'm still passionate about the process, and I enjoy the work very much, and I would be honored to be able to continue in this job. Thank you all very much. Good night.
"18 years after marriage, Harrison Ford divorced Melissa Matheson. They ended up having one of the most expensive celebrity divorces of all time. Without a prenuptial agreement, their settlement weighed in at $85 million. 2 years before his divorce was finalized, Ford began dating actress Callista Flockhart after they met when he was honored at the 2002 Golden Globes Award. They are the parents of Liam, the son she adopted before meeting Ford. He proposed to Flockhart over Valentine's Day weekend in 2009. They married on June 15, 2010 in New Mexico, where Ford was filming the sci-fi western Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, it is. I bought my horse and I bought Daniel's horse, actually.
For Daniel or for yourself?
For myself.
Was the horse for you or the horse for Callista?
Well, actually, Daniel's horse is a good mount for Callista, but I've kept horses for a number of years, and I thought my horse was a really good horse, and so I bought him and Daniel's horse. My horses were getting kind of old, so needed some fresh mounts.
Well, and finally, as I've got to leave, we're all looking forward to the next Indiana Jones movie. Are you sort of prepped and excited and pumped up for this?
Well, we don't know if there's going to be one yet.
Nearly 20 years after last donning the hat and whip, Harrison Ford returned to one of his most beloved roles. In 2008, Indiana Jones returned in The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, one of the most anticipated movies of the 21st century.
The reason we made this Indiana Jones was because we had so many people over the years come up to us, George and Harrison and myself, and basically just say, when is another one coming out? I mean, the only two movies that anybody asks me, is there going to be another one, is E.T. and Indiana Jones. No one ever asks if I'm making AI or another 1941 or Hook. I've never heard that.
For one reason or another, I hadn't met up with Harrison prior to shooting because I was in Sydney, and so I arrived on set, and he was already in costume. So the first time I met Harrison, he was dressed as Indiana Jones.
It was just a pleasure to be able to put it all back on, and you know, the character is so unique, and the costume is so unique that the character came back very, very quickly.
The way that I met him, he got out of a helicopter that he flew himself to an Air Force base where we were doing stunt training, walked around the helicopter, did like a Harrison wave, like, I'm the man, you know, and pulled a whip out of the glove box of a helicopter, then walked over to me, shook my hand and said, "You ready to do this, kid?" I can't explain to you what that is. I mean, it's just, you're dumbfounded, you can't breathe.
You know, we'd been pursuing an idea, and Cumming and George and Stephen have been working on a script. We've all been involved in the development of the script for some 19 years. You know, it took having it down on paper to feel secure about making the investment of time and energy, and not to mention money that it takes to put it on screen.
There was something quite extraordinary about being on the the red carpet last night, leading up to the Palais, hearing that music and thinking, oh gosh, I'm part of this. I ate this alive as a child and now I'm actually in one. It was very strange.
Harrison Ford is to me what he is to you, and probably more to me because I know more and have been around him and genuinely love him. Did before I met him. He is an intricate part of my childhood and my upbringing, as is Indiana Jones.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a commercial triumph and quickly took the top spot from The Last Crusade to become the most successful Indiana Jones movie ever.
I didn't know you could fly a plane. Why, yes. Land, go.
IP-178, engine failure, immediate return.
We heard it sputtering, it went off, then started again, then went off, and then it just completely went off, and it was going towards the beach. Then it came back, and then we're like, oh my goodness, it's the engine's not on.
The actor's love of flying nearly ended tragically in 2015 after his World War II plane lost power shortly after taking off. Utilizing his decades of training, Ford maneuvered the descending plane away from the town and onto a golf course.
At about 2:20 p.m., Los Angeles Fire Department paramedics received a 911 call of a plane down in Penmar Park. It's a golf course. Fire department paramedics and firefighters arrived on scene from local neighborhood fire stations and found a single-engine airplane crash with one 70-year-old patient who was outside of the plane when they arrived. The patient was in moderate condition and was transported to a local hospital.
After recovering, Ford later revealed the full extent of his injuries.
Dislocated right ankle and a shattered pelvis and a broken back.
Ford won praise from air experts and witnesses for bringing the plane down in the open space rather than a built-up area. And just 6 months after the near-fatal plane crash, Ford was back on the road, traveling worldwide to promote a long-awaited return to the franchise that started it all.
Chewie, we're home.
You first appear on screen in the Millennium Falcon. It seemed like you didn't really have to act very much. It was quite emotional.
I never act very much, just a little.
Nearly 4 decades after his first outing as Han Solo, Harrison Ford returned to the role that had previously kick-started his career. With a new writer and director, J.J. Abrams at the helm, Han Solo and the rest of the beloved Star Wars cast were back in action.
You must be feeling a lot of love.
I'm feeling a lot of jet lag, actually. I came from Australia for 1 day or 2 days in Los Angeles, and now here. But I'm doing all right, thanks. Good to be here.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens, the 7th movie in the series, was a global sensation, becoming the highest-grossing film ever released in the UK and US.
The question is to Mr. Ford. Have you ever found yourself humming the famous Star Wars tunes over the years?
No.
Why not?
Thank God.
No, I don't. But I might start.
See, Harrison's my best friend. He wouldn't specifically say it like that, but he means it. Meaning that we have a great relationship. I mean, the most interesting thing I'm looking forward for people to see is Finn and Han's relationship. And that's going to be something quite fun.
The experience was wonderful. I had a wonderful time. J.J. Abrams throws a great party. We had fun every day. It's great.
This new cast, we've got Daisy Ridley standing behind you, John Boyega. They were fantastic, and they held their own with you and Carrie Fisher.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, they're terrific. And I'm really glad for the casting and for the care that JJ took in crafting the script to introduce these characters. It's really terrific.
Have actually relished this entire experience in a way that I had not anticipated. And I think a lot of the credit for that goes to JJ and Larry. This is a rare experience in my old life, and I'm very grateful for it.
And, well, Harrison Ford, you've still got it. There's no question. You're everyone's favourite.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Harrison Ford, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the premiere. Thank you.
His friendship with longtime castmate Mark Hamill was on full display when Ford helped honor the Luke Skywalker actor at his Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony.
He has been the master of his own experience, his own life. And he is, as he always was, a quiet, sincere, honest person.
Two years after reprising his role in Star Wars, Ford returned in the sequel to 1981's Blade Runner 2049.
Sometimes to love someone, you gotta be a stranger.
The sequel saw Ford reprise his role as Rick Deckard, now living in hiding after the events of the first movie. Ford's high spirits throughout press interviews when promoting the film alluded to how much he had enjoyed making the movie.
There's nothing left for me.
Cheers, Ryan. Oh, I needed that. I've warmed up.
Ridley said, would you be interested? I said,
how much?
Show me the money.
The film and Ford's performance were very well received by critics.
Was it working together?
A nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that
It's just like another day.
A nightmare.
No, it was fun. It was real fun.
Much like the first movie, Blade Runner 2049 didn't quite reach its predicted commercial goals. However, alongside an all-star cast, including Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas, Blade Runner 2049 won 2 Oscars and was nominated for 3 others. Throughout his career, Harrison Ford has played some of the most beloved characters in film history. But his life, away from the camera, has made him more than just a movie star. Off-screen, Ford has taken on the role of an environmental activist.
How are you doing?
Hi, good.
So do you think all the disasters, everything that's been going on lately, had something to do with global warming?
I'm not a scientist, but it appears that there is a considerable body of opinion that global warming is affecting the weather patterns. Yeah.
What do you think is the best way to educate people about the environment?
We've just got to make it a part of the fabric of everyday life. Kids are very aware. We're sort of working our way up from the kids to older people because the kids are very aware.
Ford's work in protecting the planet dates back over 30 years.
I've been involved for a long time in conservation issues, and I work with an international organization called Conservation International, and it's very important to me.
Ford joined the ranks of Conservation International as a board member and soon became vice chairman. He became actively involved in the organization's design and growth, and now sits on the executive committee.
We've been talking for years about the importance of individual responsibility, individual action and effort. But individual action, whether it's because we've taken a issue by issue, species by species approach to creating solutions to our many problems, has failed to achieve critical mass on the big issues that face us all. The world is simply losing its ability to provide for our needs. We've not motivated the broader public to engage on climate change or water shortages or the loss of species or the loss of tropical forests. We've had many small victories, but nothing of the scale that it's now required.
Ford appeared as the first guest presenter on Years of Living Dangerously, a documentary series that interviews people affected by and those seeking solutions to global warming. He witnessed firsthand the scale of ecological destruction in Indonesia, and during an interview with the Indonesian Minister for Forestry, demonstrated how passionate he is about saving the planet.
We saw it. There are new roads, new illegal roads. Forests cut, trees laying on the ground, burnt where they fell. It's devastating. It's heartbreaking to see it. You saw it. You pledged a resolution. What have you done?
The destruction of nature accounts for more global emissions than all the cars and trucks in the world. We can put solar panels on every house, we can turn every car into an electric vehicle, but as long as Sumatra burns, we will have failed. So long as the Amazon's great forests are slashed and burned, our climate goals will remain out of reach. Stop, for God's sake, the denigration of science. Stop giving power to people who don't believe in science, or worse than that, pretend they don't believe in science for their own self-interest. They know who they are. We know who they are.
Even today, as Harrison Ford turns 80 years old, and his career as an action hero and leading man begins to slow down, the timeless nature of the films he's starred in has immortalized the actor in cinematic history.
Every single film you've been in, all the classics, there's been sequels and prequels, and there's been fan push. But I mean, you know, you have.
There's no Hollywood Homicide 2. You know, there is.
But I mean, you know, Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
and it's
you know,
a crime
I have
that there
been,
isn't.
and by the way, I didn't make those by myself. I was working with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and many other talented people.
But he's the one thing they all have in common.
Been very, very lucky. I have enjoyed going back to some of the characters that I played, but there's always been something left to pull out of the well. There's always been, in good conscience, a desire to deepen or broaden the experience for the audience.
I learned so much from working with Harrison. I was blown away by his passion for storytelling. And
he's very funny, very dry. You know, you're not sure if he's joking, but he usually is.
Tough as boots. Old boots. Very old boots.
He was so invested in the story and really helped us in the movie, helped us grounding the story.
He's just a pleasure, and he's so good at what he does. He's so technically great.
Harrison Ford's amazing. He's amazing.
Over 40 years after his first outing as Indiana Jones, Ford returns for a final crack of the whip in The Dial of Destiny. Undoubtedly one of the most anticipated movies of 2023.
I've always wanted to conclude his story, and I've always wanted to see him later in life.
His unparalleled success and longevity, both in life and on screen, are undoubtedly rooted in his dedication to his craft, whether he's building furniture, flying planes, protecting the rainforest, or saving the galaxy. Both on screen and off, Harrison Ford is a genuine Hollywood hero.